The forbidden books of the Bible, the mystery of the Book of Enoch. Have you ever felt like something important was hidden from you, like a crucial piece of truth was simply erased from history? What if I told you that there are books that were removed from the Bible? Ancient texts, documents once considered sacred, but that were for some reason forbidden? And what if one of these books told the story of angels who came down to earth, taught magic, weapons, and forbidden rituals to humans? And even more, what if that same book described heaven, hell, and the final judgment long before the book of Revelation was ever written? This book exists, and it's called the Book of Enoch. Today, on Arquivos Sagrados USA, we'll open the forgotten and censored pages of the faith and uncover what they don't want you to know. Welcome to Arquivos Sagrados USA. Here, we don't settle. If for the surface, we investigate, we question, and we dive deep into the oldest mysteries of humanity. If you believe that faith goes beyond what you've been told and feel there are hidden truths waiting to be uncovered, this channel is for you. Each week we explore mystery, spirituality, and the forgotten pages of the Bible. So go ahead and subscribe, because what we're about to reveal today might change the way you see everything. Got your popcorn ready? Your video is about to begin. Chapter 1. Why are there forbidden books in the Bible? When you think of the Bible, you probably imagine a complete book, closed, untouchable. But the truth is, it wasn't always like that. What we now call the Bible went through a long process of selection. There were centuries of debate, religious councils, political pressure, and theological interests. In the early days of Christianity, many texts circulated among believers. Alternative gospels, letters, prophecies, visions, and different interpretations. Some were accepted in certain regions, but rejected in others. Over time, religious leaders decided they needed to organize what would be official. They created a canon, a collection of texts considered sacred. And that's when many books were left out. Some for being too strange, others for contradicting the doctrine being established, and others because they said too much. That's where the Book of Enoch comes in. Chapter 2. Who was Enoch? Before we talk about the book, we need to understand who Enoch was. In the Bible, in the book of Genesis, Enoch is described as a man who walked with God. And more than that, it says he did not die, but was taken by God. One of the only biblical figures who simply vanished from earth without facing death. That alone makes Enoch a figure surrounded by mystery. But few people know that there are ancient texts attributed to him. Texts that describe visions of heaven, encounters with angels, and prophecies about the end of times. And here's what's even more interesting. These texts were considered sacred for centuries. Even in Jesus' time, the Book of Enoch was read and respected by many Jews. Chapter 3. The angels who came down to earth. One of the most mysterious and disturbing parts of the Book of Enoch is the story of the angels who came down to earth. They are called the Watchers, angels sent by God to observe humanity. But instead of just watching, they fell in love with human women, and then they made a forbidden decision. They descended to earth, took physical form, and had children with them. These children were known as Nephilim, giants, hybrid beings, strong, violent, and, according to the book, corrupters of creation. The Bible even mentions the Nephilim in Genesis 6, but it's in the Book of Enoch where the story is told in full detail. The Watchers didn't just have relationships with women, they taught humanity knowledge that was never meant to be shared. How to forge weapons, how to practice witchcraft, how to manipulate the stars, how to use plants for dark rituals, even how to use makeup to seduce and destroy. It was the beginning of a moral and spiritual collapse. The earth became filled with violence, pride, selfishness, and the worship of false gods. And this, according to Enoch, is what caused the great flood in Noah's time. Chapter 4. The imprisonment of the fallen angels. But the story doesn't end there. The Book of Enoch describes how, when God saw what the watchers had done, he was outraged, and he acted. The leading, rebel angels, like Semjaza and Azazel, were judged and condemned. God ordered that they be bound and locked in the depths of the earth, in eternal darkness, awaiting the day of judgment. It's a scene that blends justice, mystery, and terror. According to the text, the watchers are still imprisoned, awaiting the moment they will be released for final judgment. Chilling, isn't it? This vision was so powerful, it influenced books like Revelation and helped shape the modern concept of hell. But if the Book of Enoch was so rich, so ancient, and so influential, why was it removed from the Bible? Chapter 5. Why was the Book of Enoch removed? There are many theories, but one of the most widely accepted among scholars is this. The Book of Enoch said things that threatened the control of religion. It spoke of angels with free will, of dangerous spiritual knowledge, of celestial rebellion, and of judgment even for divine beings, ideas too risky to spread freely. Even more, the book suggested that humans could understand deep heavenly realities without needing intermediaries, and that was dangerous to those who wanted to control the faith. When the early church organized the biblical canon, the Book of Enoch was seen as too symbolic, too strange, too rebellious. The result? Excluded, forbidden, forgotten. But interestingly, it was never completely lost. Ethiopian monks preserved it for centuries, and today, thanks to archaeological discoveries, it has resurfaced. Chapter 6. Enoch's Journey into the Heavens. One of the most breathtaking parts of the Book of Enoch is the account of when he was taken by God on a journey through the heavens. While most biblical texts speak of heaven in symbolic language, Enoch describes places, spiritual structures, and even divine courtrooms. He was guided by angels through various heavenly realms and saw things no human had ever seen. Gates of light that open and close with divine precision. Mountains of eternal fire. Stars that sing and obey God's voice. Spirits of fallen angels imprisoned in shadowy chambers, and a throne of glory, before which even angels bow in absolute silence. Enoch also saw the places of the dead. Yes, and according to him, there are different regions in the afterlife, a kind of spiritual waiting, where both the righteous and the wicked remain until the day of judgment. For the righteous, peace, light, rest. For the wicked, pain, darkness, torment. These visions anticipated ideas that would only appear later in Revelation and deeply influenced how heaven and hell would be portrayed in Christianity. Chapter 7. The Final Judgment in the Book of Enoch. Enoch also describes a cosmic judgment. According to him, a day will come when everyone, angels, humans, even forgotten spiritual creatures, will stand before God. On that day, there will be no titles, no religions, no fame or power. Only truth will matter. The fallen angels will be thrown into a pit of fire. The Nephilim, the giants, and all who corrupted creation will reap what they sowed, and the righteous will be lifted up, restored, honored. Justice, according to Enoch, will not just be spiritual. It will be visible, unquestionable, complete. And here, the book ends on a note of hope despite everything, because Enoch didn't write to scare, but to remind us that nothing is hidden from the eyes of God. Chapter 8. Why this matters today. You might be asking yourself, okay, but what does this have to do with me? Everything. Because the Book of Enoch isn't just an ancient story. It speaks of a real spiritual battle. It tells us about how evil entered the world, about the responsibility of heavenly beings, and more than anything, about how God sees every human choice. It reminds us that what is forbidden is sometimes what sets us free, and that faith doesn't need to be blind. It can be curious, bold, and deep. The Book of Enoch shows us there's much more between heaven and earth than most people dare to see. And if this text still makes people uncomfortable today, maybe it's because it reveals truths they don't want us to know. Bonus. Chapter Enoch and Our Time, Prophecy or Coincidence? What's most disturbing about the Book of Enoch isn't what it says about the past, it's what it seems to say about the present. Some of its descriptions of a world corrupted by the Watcher's sound frighteningly familiar. Technology used to control, violence being glorified, vanity turned into a lifestyle, the soul being ignored, creation being distorted. Could it be that we're reliving the days of Enoch? Are the ancient mistakes being repeated in different language, with different names but the same essence? Maybe the reason they tried to silence this book for so long wasn't just because of what it said about angels, giants, or heaven, but because it still speaks powerfully about us. The Book of Enoch might not be in your Bible, but it still echoes. In dreams, in questions, and in that quiet feeling you can't explain. Maybe it was forgotten by many, but never by God. Now tell me in the comments, do you think the Book of Enoch should have been included in the Bible? Had you heard of it before? If this video made you think, feel, or question, subscribe now to Arquivos Sagrados USA. Each week, we dive into the forgotten truths of faith. Turn on notifications, because what's coming next could change everything you believe. We'll see you in the next deep dive.